Hey houseplant friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you the rarest houseplants I have in my collection. My purpose for doing this is because at the end of 2021 I'd like to compare and contrast to see if I got any other rarer plants in 2021 that I was able to trade for, because if you haven't watched my video yet or if it hasn't come out yet, one of my resolutions for 2021 is to actually trade for plants instead of buying them, especially since the price of houseplants is going up so high right now. So without further ado, please make sure that you like and subscribe, maybe even binge watching my videos and you just forgot to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the community. Let's get into seeing the rare plants in my collection. And before we jump into this, I should say that I am choosing to define the word rare in this video as hard to procure, meaning that there is way too much demand, so the supply is low, or it is rare botanically. Those two versions of rare are what I am using in this video to define the plants in this video that I have in my collection that are rare. So without a doubt, the rarest plant I own in my collection is my Philodendron ilsmanii. This is a plant that I actually traded up for with a super awesome person. You know who you are. Thank you so much for being so amazing. And I actually traded with them on the contingency with the current trade that I was doing, that once it got to the point where I felt like I wanted to start taking propagations, that I would actually send them the first propagation that I decided to take from it. And that's kind of what made the trade more equal. But the very fact that I traded for this plant, I really feel like gives a lot of hope to the houseplant community, in that you don't have to shovel out tens of thousands of dollars for these rare plants. You just have to find the right people who love and respect plants as much as you do and trade for them. The ilsmanii is a plant that is an endangered species, and there's actually, until this year, it really hadn't been surfacing among the more broad scope of the houseplant community. I remember that when I first got into the ilsmanii back in 2019, early 2019, no one else really knew the plant unless you were a pretty serious collector or you did a lot of research on philodendron specifically. Now I feel like the greater houseplant community does know about the ilsmanii, which makes me really happy that this plant is finally getting the recognition it deserves. However, with that recognition definitely comes a higher price tag, because the plant has definitely been making itself more popular with some of the people that have been talking about this plant lately. The ilsmanii is amazing and great. It is definitely my favorite plant ever in the world. Even if I didn't own it, it would still be my favorite plant, and it is the rarest one in probably my entire collection. The next rarest one in my collection, I have to say, is definitely my Aetherium QNC. This plant I actually purchased from my friend, that plant friend, and it ended up coming out as, like I've shared in multiple videos, a couple months after I bought it from her. She realized that the plant that she bought had been poached from a guy, so no one in that whole line of people knew that it had been poached until it actually came out, because that guy got exposed. So I did make a promise to her that if I ever didn't want it anymore, I would send it back to her. I've actually been doing a really good job with this plant, and it's actually just putting out a new leaf right now, so I don't think I will be sending it back. I also had another chance to rescue another one that someone was selling for just $40 on Facebook, because they were giving it the boot because it wasn't growing for them in the month that they had it, and they had ordered it from Ecuador, which is where the plant is poached from. It came with no root system, so it's very likely that this plant was poached, and it was actually recommended to me by someone who thought that I might be able to do a good job with taking care of this plant, since I had been growing the other one. So this is a plant that you need to be really careful, because I do know for a fact that the two that I have were originally poached. I did not order them poached. I had nothing to do with any of that. But if you do want a QNC, please just be really careful with where you're sourcing your plants from. But this plant is a very rewarding houseplant. It is a corrugated Aetherium. It is so beautiful, and definitely one of my favorite plants in my entire collection. My next rarest houseplant I'd probably say that I have is actually sitting right here behind me, and this is my sport variegated monstera. This plant has two full stems of huge sleeves. I mean, you can see how big this one is compared to my head. Variegated, sport variegated monstera leaves, which is actually very hard to find. Half of one of the stems I actually traded for the ilsmanii. So if that tells you what this plant can be worth, it's definitely worth going to big box stores and taking a look. I got this plant for $30 at a local Albertsons, which is probably like 5% of what the plant goes for as market price. Yeah, definitely go swing by your big box stores. They're really easy to find as long as you're actually sitting down and looking at every single leaf. It really just comes down to keeping a good eye out and going to your big box stores as often as you can on shipment day. I know that Milo's and Home Depot get plants in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This one in particular I think is really beautiful. I wish it was more yellow. This is more of a green on green kind of guy. My friends have some Aurea sport variegated guys, which are way cool, but I'm happy with the guy that I got, and he has some beautiful leaves that I can stare at all day long. The next houseplant on my list is my Florida Beauty. This is a plant that I was gifted by Anya from Botanicas, and it is an absolutely amazing houseplant. I love it so much. This is a plant I actually had an opportunity to buy last year for a decent $150. This plant now sells from it sells on Facebook anywhere from $350 to $700. It's like a shake. So the fact that I was given one as a gift is just amazing. It's actually about to put out a new leaf right now, and I just love the marbling on the leaf, and I love how interesting the leaf shape on this specific plant is. So I love that plant. I love it more than life. It's amazing, and I can't wait to go on a long, long life journey with that plant. The next plant that I have that is one of the rarest in my collection is my Philodendron Strawberry Shake. This plant I was also gifted by Anya. If you can't tell, there's kind of a trend here. This is an amazing philodendron. It comes out with this cream orange marmalade, light green kind of vibe, and the one I have is honestly, it's about this big. It's a very, very, very small houseplant, but it is so beautiful. It's big in its beauty, and it is probably, next to the Ilsmani QNC, my very favorite houseplant that I own in my entire collection. The next houseplant on my list is my Begonia Darth vaderiana, which I was given again by Anya. Anya is so amazing. If you guys haven't checked out Botanicas, please go check that out. I will link them in the description down below. This Begonia Darth vaderiana has really taken off in my care. I had 3 before, and I ordered them with another girl. I ordered 3 with another girl before, and we imported them, and they came just in really bad shape, and I did my best to save the ones that I got, but ultimately they didn't last longer than about 6 months total. But the one that Anya sent me is actually getting huge. Actually, one of its leaves is about this big right now, which compared to my face is pretty large, and it's doing really well in my Botanicas lead head terrarium, and I love it. It's probably one of my favorite begonias. I just love the shiny gold foil around the edges. The next one, which I don't think is actually necessarily rare, but it is extremely hard to locate and find, and that is going to be my Begonia green chloristicta, and at the same time my Begonia feryx. So I actually got a trade from the same guy. I got both of these begonias from the same guy. I traded with him in Salt Lake City. If you're watching, thank you so much. I absolutely love these begonias, and I hope that the Julab is doing well for you. The green chloristicta is just beautiful. It has a partner, which is the red chloristicta, which is actually a very rare begonia and hard to get. The green chloristicta is just so beautiful, and it gives me variegated monstera vibes, just like the green on green variegation action. And then also the feryx I got, which is a step below, I think, the Nahengensis and the Milano Ballata. The feryx is a little bit harder to locate because of its difficult nature. It's a easy plant to grow once you get it stabilized, but until then it's fairly difficult, and it's a pretty hard one to ship. Yeah. And finally, the last houseplant I have in my collection that I would consider to be pretty rare is my Papio pedium Microanthem, which is a very hard to come by orchid. Orchids in general are kind of weird when you define them as rare, because in some parts of the country they're rare and in some parts they're not, but it seems that a purebred Microanthem is pretty difficult to come by. I was able to actually get one as a gift from Orchid Dynasty in Salt Lake City, so that was extremely cool. Yeah, I love this little orchid because it looks like a mini Burl Marx Fantasy. And speaking of Burl Marx Fantasy, I actually forgot about this one that I have. I know I probably have other rare plants in my collection, but we'll just end it here. I actually got this specific Burl Marx Fantasy from Anya as well, and it is an adorable little guy. I've actually kept it in the same dessert cup cloche that she fashioned for it since I got it, and it is doing really, really well in there. This little philodendron is so beautiful, and it's silver with this light green, almost like cross hatching on it, and it's just great. It's amazing, and I am so blessed to have this plant in my collection. It's definitely one of my top 10 favorite philodendron. So that is my list. That is probably the rarest houseplants I have in my collection at this time, whether rare is hard to find and it's not actually botanically rare, or we are talking about botanically rare plants. These are definitely the hardest ones I have in my collection to find. So thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and tweet me at PlantMeAshley. Follow me on Instagram at PlantMeAshley, and I'd love to hear in the comment section down below what your rarest plants in your collection are. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the new year. Happy 2021. Congratulations on making it through 2020, and I hope that we can have an amazing year filled with hope, happiness, peace, and love in 2021. See you later. Have a good night. See you in the next houseplant section. Bye.